The wind shrieked down the lonely two-lane stretch, slicing through the thick night like a blade. Headlights flickered weakly in the distance, casting trembling beams across the cracked pavement. A woman emerged from the fog, her heels clacking unevenly, her shimmering silver dress torn at the hem and wet with mist. She looked more like a dream than reality, lost and desperate. Inside the garage, the mechanic worked under the hiss of a welding torch, sparks illuminating the grime caked to his arms. He looked up sharply, narrowing his eyes. The woman stumbled closer, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Please," she gasped, voice trembling. "My car just died back there. I didn't know where else to go." The mechanic didn't answer immediately. He lowered the torch, the sizzle fading. Her breath came in ragged gasps. "You're the only light I saw for miles." He studied her. Heels, designer bag, fear in her eyes. "Finally," he said, "you picked the wrong place to break down." But still, he grabbed a towel and tossed it her way. He didn't ask anything right away, just reached under the bench and tossed her a rough, oil-streaked towel. She caught it, hands numb. The space smelled of burnt rubber and machine grease. She sat on a dented stool, shivering, mascara streaked like war paint on her cheeks. He rummaged through a drawer filled with rusted tools, every clink echoing through the quiet. The silence between them was thick, punctuated only by the soft hum of a flickering fluorescent light. After a while, he asked, "You from around here?" She let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Do I look like I'm from around here?" Her voice cracked on the edges, but there was defiance behind her tired eyes. He glanced her way, then went back to his tools. "Didn't think so." The old space heater buzzed to life, giving off a faint warmth. She huddled closer, staring at the wall covered in dusty license plates from decades past. The mechanic handed her a chipped ceramic mug, filled with instant coffee. "Thanks," she murmured, voice quieter now. He nodded once but didn't look at her. She studied him in the dull light, the lines on his face, the dark circles beneath his eyes. There was a weight to him, a sadness that felt familiar. "You always fix strangers' cars in the middle of nowhere?" she asked. He finally looked up, eyes tired. "Only the ones that ask nicely." For a moment, a corner of her lips curved upward. In that silence, something unspoken passed between them. Not trust yet, but a spark. Rain beat down in thick sheets outside. The mechanic pulled the hood of her car open, flashlight clenched between his teeth. Sparks of water sizzled off the battery. She stood in the garage doorway, arms crossed, dress clinging to her from the rain. "You're not like other mechanics," she called. He smirked, brushing wet hair from his eyes. "And you're not like other damsels in distress." Thunder cracked in the distance. She laughed, a genuine, tired sound. He disappeared under the hood again. The air between them crackled like the storm above. For a brief moment, they were rent, just a mechanic and a stranger. They were two people caught in the same storm, finding brief shelter in each other's presence. He returned from the storm, shirt soaked, curls clinging to his forehead. "Loose wire," he said, dropping the wrench with a clink. "Shall run in the morning." She looked up at him from the couch, unsure. "Can I stay here tonight? I don't have anywhere else to go." He paused, wiping his hands on a rag, eyes scanning her face. "Couch's clean, don't steal my tools." She smiled faintly, wrapping the towel tighter. As he turned away, she whispered, "Thank you." He didn't answer, but the smallest nod gave her comfort. Outside, the rain softened to a drizzle. Inside, the distance between them began to shrink, inch by fragile inch. Morning light seeped through the cracked blinds, dust motes dancing in soft golden beams. The mechanic sat at the small kitchen table, sipping bitter black coffee, eyes fixed on the door where she stirred on the couch. She wrapped her arms around herself, hesitant but awake now, the tension from last night still thick in the air. "Name's Jack," he said finally, voice low. She glanced up, startled by the first real words exchanged. "I'm Evelyn," she replied, voice barely above a whisper. Jack nodded, studying her like a puzzle missing pieces. You've been running from something. Evelyn looked away, a flicker of pain crossing her face. Maybe. Or running towards something no one believes in. The room fell silent again, two strangers bound by secrets, neither dared share fully yet. Jack moved toward the battered tool chest, his fingers brushing over sockets and wrenches like old friends. What brings a famous actress like you to a place like this? He asked without turning. Evelyn hesitated, swallowing hard. Not many places to hide when everyone's watching, she admitted. I needed to disappear for a while. He studied her profile in the dull morning light. Disappearing's easy. Staying hidden, not so much. Evelyn let out a bitter laugh, eyes glimmering with unshed tears. Sometimes hiding means facing your fears alone. Jack looked at her then, something soft breaking through the grit in his gaze. You're braver than you think. Evelyn's eyes flicked to the cracked wall clock, each tick sounding like a heartbeat in the quiet room. She toyed with the frayed edge of the blanket. You ever think about leaving all this behind? She asked, nodding toward the tools, the garage, the life he built around grease and engines. Jack shrugged, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. I thought about it, more than once. But this place, it's all I know. She met his eyes then, searching. And what if I told you someone's waiting to take you away? Someone who sees more than the grease-stained exterior. His brow furrowed. Who? Me, she whispered. The weight of those words hung between them, heavier than the thick air. Jack stared out the grimy window as rain began tapping the glass, each drop a soft percussion against the silence. You really serious about this? He asked, voice rough but steady. Evelyn nodded, her jaw firm. I'm done running. For the first time, a spark of something real flickered in Jack's eyes. Most people who come here want to escape the world. You want to change it. She smiled, a fragile curve, maybe. Or maybe I just want someone to believe in me again. The rain intensified, blurring the view outside. But inside, a fragile warmth took root between two broken souls on the edge of a new beginning. Later, as the storm raged outside, Jack pulled out an old photo from under the counter. A faded picture of a younger man smiling with a woman who looked eerily like Evelyn. He held it carefully, as if afraid it might crumble. Who is this? She asked softly. Jack sighed. My sister. She left years ago, said she was chasing a dream like yours. Evelyn reached out, touching the corner of the photo gently. Maybe she found what she was looking for. Jack looked at her, a mixture of hope and fear swirling in his eyes. Maybe, or maybe she found something she lost. In the flickering light of the storm, the past and present blurred, binding two hearts with threads of shared longing and uncertain futures. The morning brought a brittle chill as sunlight fought through thick clouds, casting long shadows across the garage floor. Jack wiped his hands on a rag, eyes scanning the horizon where Evelyn stood by her car, restless. You still haven't told me why you ran, he said quietly. She turned, biting her lip. It wasn't just the fame, Evelyn confessed. There were threats, people who wanted to control every part of my life. I needed to escape the spotlight and the danger it brought. Jack's gaze hardened, a silent promise forming. No one's going to control you here. Her shoulders eased for the first time, the weight beginning to lift. But outside, unseen eyes watched from the shadows, the past inching closer. Jack pulled an old radio from a dusty shelf, fiddling with the knobs until static gave way to faint music. The melancholy tune filled the air as Evelyn sat nearby, her eyes distant. You ever think about what your life could be if you walked away? She asked, voice barely audible. He paused, then smiled faintly. Every damn day, but I'm too tangled in this place. She reached out, touching his hand lightly. Maybe we both need a new start. For a moment, their hands lingered, warmth bridging years of loneliness. But just as hope blossomed, a sharp knock rattled the garage door, an unwelcome reminder that safety was fragile. The knock echoed again, louder and more urgent. Jack's face darkened as he moved toward the door, muscles tense. Evelyn's heart pounded, breath quickening. "Who is it?" she whispered. Jack didn't answer immediately, eyes sharp. He opened the door a crack to reveal a sharply dressed man with a cold smile. "We need to talk," the stranger said smoothly. Jack's jaw tightened. "Not here." The man's eyes flicked to Evelyn. "She belongs with us." Tension exploded in the small garage. Evelyn stepped back, fear and defiance mixing in her eyes. This was no accident. The past had come to claim her, and maybe Jack too. The stranger pushed inside despite Jack's protest, slick and confident. "You don't understand what you're protecting her from," he said, voice low but threatening. Jack stepped forward, fists clenched. "I protect who I choose." Evelyn's eyes flashed fire. "I'm not property." The man's smile twisted. "Not yet, but soon." The garage crackled with electric tension, the air thick with danger. Jack grabbed a wrench off the bench, stepping between Evelyn and the intruder. "Leave now, or regret it." The man's eyes narrowed, weighing the odds before he finally backed off with a slow, cold laugh. The storm outside raged on, mirroring the storm inside. After the intruder left, silence settled like dust. Evelyn sank onto the couch, fingers trembling. Jack leaned against the workbench, breathing heavy but steady. "They'll keep coming," he said quietly. "Why you?" she asked, voice cracked with exhaustion. "Because I promised someone I'd keep you safe," he replied, eyes shadowed by memories. Evelyn looked at him, searching for the man behind the mechanic's tough exterior. "Then I'm not leaving. Not without you." Jack's gaze softened, a fragile bond forged in fear and trust. Outside, the rain eased, but inside, a new battle was only just beginning. The following day dawned bleak and overcast, heavy clouds sagging low like a warning. Jack was under the hood of an old pickup, the steady rhythm of his tools a brief distraction from the turmoil brewing. Evelyn watched from the porch, her fingers nervously twisting a silver locket at her neck. "Why stay here?" she finally asked, voice soft but steady. Jack glanced up, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because this place is real. It's the only thing left that's honest." She nodded slowly, understanding the weight behind his words. "And me?" she asked quietly. He paused, then said, "You're starting to feel like home." The moment hung between them, fragile as the first light breaking through the storm clouds. Evelyn pulled a worn envelope from her coat pocket, the edges frayed and stained. "There's something I haven't told you," she began hesitantly. Jack leaned against the garage door frame, eyes fixed on her. She unfolded the letter inside, official, threatening. "They want me to sign away everything. My name, my career, my freedom." Her voice cracked, the weight of years of control spilling out. Jack's fists clenched. "We'll fight this together." She looked up, hope flickering for the first time. "You really think so?" "I know so." The storm outside started anew, but inside a plan was forming, fueled by defiance and trust. The sun dipped low, painting the sky blood orange. Jack and Evelyn sat by a flickering fire pit outside, the air thick with unspoken fears and fragile hopes. "Why me?" Evelyn asked, tracing patterns in the ash. "Because you're stronger than they give you credit for," Jack replied quietly. She laughed bitterly, "Or stubborn." He smiled, warmth touching his eyes. "Same thing." For a brief moment, the world outside faded. No threats, no shadows, just two souls finding solace in shared strength. But as night deepened, a distant engine's roar shattered the peace, a reminder that danger was still very real. Headlights blazed through the dusk as a black SUV screeched to a halt near the garage. Two men stepped out, faces obscured by shadows and rain. Jack's jaw tightened, hand reaching for a wrench. Evelyn stood beside him, eyes sharp, heart pounding. "They came sooner than I thought," Jack muttered. One of the men called out, "Time to come back, you don't get to decide." Jack stepped forward, voice low and fierce. "We decide here." The strangers exchanged glances, tension coiling like a spring ready to snap. Evelyn gripped Jack's arm. We're not running anymore. The cold night air held its breath as a battle of wills ignited under the stormy sky. The clash was brief but fierce, words sharp as knives, threats exchanged under the downpour. Jack stood firm, unwavering, while Evelyn's voice rose, fierce and clear. I'm not yours to take. The men hesitated, respect mingling with frustration in their eyes. Finally, one nodded curtly. This isn't over. As the SUV sped away, Jack exhaled deeply, relief and exhaustion washing over him. Evelyn reached out, fingers brushing his cheek. Thank you for fighting. He smiled, a rare softness breaking through. I'm not done yet, neither are you. The storm began to fade, leaving behind the fragile calm before the next storm. The morning sun broke through storm clouds, casting fractured light across the cluttered garage. Jack paced, his mind a tempest of doubt and resolve. Evelyn sat on the edge of the worn couch, staring at a crumpled newspaper clipping, her name in bold words like scandal and betrayal glaring back at her. They're turning everyone against me, she whispered. Jack stopped, eyes sharp. Then we'll show them the truth. She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. Where do we even start? He nodded toward the dusty filing cabinet. With what they tried to bury. The garage felt less like a refuge now, more like a battlefield ready to erupt. Jack rifled through stacks of old files and yellowed papers, each document revealing fragments of a hidden story, contracts, threats, hush-money receipts. Evelyn leaned over his shoulder, fingers tracing names and dates. They covered this up for years, she said, disbelief and anger mingling. But why? Jack's voice was low, filled with grim determination. Because the truth would ruin them. The silence stretched heavy between them, as the weight of corruption settled. We need proof, something they can't deny. Evelyn's eyes burned with fierce resolve. Then we find it, no matter the cost. Night fell thick and silent, except for the distant hum of a city that felt worlds away. Jack and Evelyn sat across from each other, a single lamp casting long shadows. What happens if they win? She asked quietly. Jack met her gaze steadily. Then we lose more than the fight. We lose ourselves. She nodded, swallowing the fear tightening her chest. Then we don't lose. For the first time, the vulnerability between them was real and unguarded. Outside, the wind whispered warnings through cracked window panes. But inside, a fierce hope burned brighter than ever. A sudden knock jolted the quiet night. Jack's hand instinctively reached for the old shotgun resting against the wall. Evelyn's breath caught. Who is it? Jack's voice was steady but wary. It's me, came a familiar voice. The door creaked open to reveal a young woman, soaked and trembling, eyes wide with desperation. I have something you need to see, she said, holding out a flash drive. Jack's eyes narrowed. Come inside. As the door shut behind her, Evelyn felt the fragile safety of their sanctuary begin to fracture. The flash drive's contents flickered onto the cracked screen of a dusty laptop, emails, videos, recordings exposing a web of lies and manipulation. Evelyn's eyes widened as the truth spilled before her. This changes everything, she breathed. Jack's fingers hovered over the keyboard, poised for action. We expose them tomorrow. The weight of the moment settled between them, heavy and electric. Outside, the first hints of dawn painted the sky pink and gold. Inside, two warriors steeled themselves for the battle that would decide their fate. The morning buzzed with restless energy as Jack and Evelyn prepared to confront the world. The garage felt charged, every tool and surface humming with silent purpose. Evelyn stared at the reflection in a cracked mirror, tired eyes framed by streaked mascara, but a fierce resolve burning beneath. Jack handed her a worn leather jacket. Ready? He asked, voice steady. She nodded, tightening the jacket's collar. Outside, the first birdsong pierced the cool air, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. This was no longer just about survival. It was about reclaiming power and rewriting their story. The downtown streets buzzed with life as Evelyn and Jack stepped into the crowd, their eyes scanning faces and flashing cameras alike. Whispers followed them like shadows, some curious, some hostile. "Keep your head down," Jack murmured, voice low but protective. Evelyn's heart pounded, but beneath the fear was a steely defiance. They were no longer victims of the story, they were its authors. As they approached the towering glass building that housed the media conglomerate behind the smear campaign, Evelyn inhaled deeply. This ends today. Inside the gleaming lobby, tension thickened like a storm cloud. Security eyes tracked their every move. Evelyn's pulse quickened as they entered the sleek conference room, where executives sat behind polished tables, faces masks of corporate coldness. "We have evidence that changes everything," Evelyn declared, voice strong and unwavering. A murmur rippled through the room. Jack stood beside her, silent but solid as a rock. The power in the room shifted, unease creeping into the polished facades. For the first time, truth was on the offensive. Arguments flared, voices rose in a cacophony of denials and threats. But Evelyn remained calm, presenting document after document, video after video, irrefutable proof laid bare. Jack's presence was a silent anchor, a reminder they weren't alone. The tide was turning, walls of deceit crumbling. As the last file was projected, a hush fell. The executives exchanged glances, powerless for once. Evelyn's voice cut through the silence. "You tried to erase me, but here I am." The room held its breath. History was being rewritten. Exiting the building, Evelyn and Jack were met with a swarm of flashing cameras and shouted questions. She held her head high, eyes blazing with newfound strength. "The truth is out," she declared, voice carrying over the chaos. Jack kept a steady hand on her back, grounding her in the storm of attention. As reporters clamored, Evelyn knew this was only the beginning, not an end. But for the first time in years, she felt free. Not from the past, but from its power over her. The sun broke fully through the clouds, bathing the city in warm light, a fragile promise of what might come next. The city skyline shimmered under the fading twilight as Evelyn and Jack returned to the quiet refuge of the garage. The air was cool, filled with the scent of oil and rain-soaked earth. Evelyn stood by the door, eyes searching the horizon. "What now?" she asked, voice low but steady. Jack joined her, hands tucked into the pockets of his worn jacket. "Now we rebuild, not just the past, but what's ahead." For the first time, their shared silence wasn't heavy. It was full of possibility. The world outside was still wild and uncertain, but inside, something fragile and powerful had taken root. Inside, Evelyn traced the outlines of old tools on the workbench, memories mingling with the present. "I never thought I'd find peace here," she admitted. Jack smiled, wiping grease from his hands. "Peace isn't given, it's earned." She looked up, eyes bright with a hint of laughter. "Then, I guess we've got some work to do." Their laughter echoed softly, a rare and precious sound. Outside, the night deepened, stars blinking awake, silent witnesses to a new chapter unfolding, where two broken souls began to heal together. Days passed in quiet rhythm, oil-stained hands working side by side, shared smiles amidst sweat and grime. Evelyn learned the language of engines, Jack discovering new strength in her presence. One evening, as the sun set fire to the horizon, Jack said softly, "You're not just surviving anymore, you're living." She met his gaze, heart full. "Thanks to you." The garage became more than a shelter. It was a sanctuary, a testament to resilience and unexpected love born from the ashes of their past. One quiet night, Evelyn sat on the porch, the silver locket gleaming softly in her hand. Jack joined her, sitting close. "What does the future look like?" she asked. He shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "Unwritten, but I'm ready to write it with you." She leaned her head on his shoulder, the weight of uncertainty eased by trust and hope. The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, as if blessing the fragile new beginning unfolding beneath their watchful light. As dawn broke, Evelyn whispered, "I never imagined this life." Jack smiled, voice steady but tender. "Neither did I," But sometimes the hardest roads lead us to the places we're meant to be. She squeezed his hand, eyes shining. Then this is home. The world stirred awake around them, but for a moment, time held its breath. Two hearts beating steady, bound by a story of survival, love, and the promise of tomorrow. The final light of dawn cast long shadows, but their future glowed with unwavering hope.